This is a reverse lunge with a hip opening. So what I'm doing is I'm stepping back into a reverse lunge, and I'm simply, with that foot planted back there parallel, I'm then going to rotate my back foot and my pelvis open. And while I take my bottom hand and hold my front knee, and I take my top arm and I open it up back like this, then I'm going to rotate everything back to center and pull my way back up. It's a lot of steps. Let's review that facing straight on here. So follow me here. You're going to step back into a reverse lunge. Check to make sure that your feet are still parallel from this point. At this point, you're then going to rotate your back foot and your hips open, out, and then keep the bottom hand on the inside of that front knee. You can either put your palm on the knee and really press in there, or you can use the back of your hand if you want to kind of open up the shoulder a bit more. Just make sure it's enough pressure to not let that knee rotate in with this position. If you're really tight, it's common to turn this in, and then this knee ends up inside of that foot. You got to take that hand, pull it out, use the muscle in your glute as well. Pull, open that hip up, feel that stretch in the inner thigh there as you take your top arm and open it back to open your chest here. And then you will rotate everything back to center again. So that's rotating your pelvis back forward and rotating that back foot so that your feet are parallel. Make sure that heel comes all the way around to be parallel. Use a mirror, use a camera, use what you got to do to check your form so that's parallel in the back there before you then step up and then switch sides, stepping back into this lunge. Again, rotating the pelvis open, turning the back foot. So now the feet are perpendicular here. Bottom hand presses the bottom knee. Top arm opens up, reaches out this way. Shoulders are still backing down through this. And then rotate everything back to center. Pelvis comes forward, back foot comes parallel as you then step up and come back to standing here. So do it in stages and get each step done correctly first before you then try to smooth it all out. But it's a key point. I really like to try to identify. Technically, yes, you go from this the perpendicular state to just sort of smoothing it back up to standing. But I'd say it's a key point here. When you're coming back around, actually rotate your pelvis and that back foot. Line up that back foot first to then stand up. Because this is a good exercise to really make sure that you're training yourself how to position that back foot wherever you want it to be to maintain control with whatever exercise you need, especially if you're trying to maintain this parallel form and you're used to always having it perpendicular to you. So this really helps with that a lot if you can pay attention to that. Spine neutral, like you got someone tie a string in the back of your head, pulling up so that you keep your spine nice and tall, shoulders back and down throughout this exercise. And then if you want to add a little bit of resistance here, you could hold a set of dumbbells in your hand so that every time you step back, you then open up here. At this point, you need to be able to not need this hand to pull this knee open if you're holding a dumbbell, because you're going to want to keep this dumbbell on the outside of the hip. So rotating around, if you got that dumbbell, you're going to keep on the outside of the hip here. So notice when I rotate open, I'm just using the muscles of my hip to hold that knee in place here. I don't need my hand there at that point. And then I'm taking this weight up over my head, diagonally out. So you can see me facing this way. When I step back, I'm rotating open this way and then coming back down and then stepping up. And this stays on the outside of this hip as I just diagonally send that arm straight back, shoulders back and down, back in and up there. You could also, without resistance or with resistance, you can turn this into a moving motion. So you can make a walking lunge. You can start at one end, stepping back, rotate open, come back to center, and push back again. And then step out with this one and rotate open, come back to center and step back. And every time you step back, your feet should be parallel. That tells you that you are getting that back foot parallel to then come up to standing. You do reverse lunges or forward lunges, stepping forward, rotating open, back to center, lifting up, and then taking a step into your next lunge with the opposite foot. Rotate open, back to center, and lift up. So you can do them in place, or you can turn them into walking lunges, whichever works for you. Just keep the form dialed in. Spine neutral, shoulders back and down, especially if you're holding dumbbells with it, and making sure that knee remains in line with the middle of the foot and that you can control that back foot back to parallel every time you come up. And that there is your reverse lunge with a hip opening.